any situation should help you to nudge you to check, is this relevant as well? What else should be checking for? Borderline, if she ever self-injured, if she ever cut, if there was drinking, there was alcohol, any other number of associated possibilities. Not that it's for sure, but of possibility. Next time I jump on it, get into it right away. Another professional woman presenting issues, depression, anxiety. But this time it was really interesting. This professional woman told me that she had dissociative identity disorder. She had dissociative identity disorder. So I did, the attachment work would seem to be at the core of it because, a lot of times, again, theoretical knowledge that a lot of times there is trauma. It actually should be trauma work and attachment work because there is trauma at the core and the foundational dissociative identity disorder. And there's some issues to working gradually to identify all the different personas, integrating personas. And then one day she came in and she blew up at me. I did something. I don't know what I did. She blew up at me. She got so mad at me. She was furious. Session ended terribly. She was still mad at me. I didn't know what had happened, except something bad had happened. She calls me and says, don't talk to me. Don't call me back, because I don't want to talk to you. And then all I did is I called her and said, I heard you. I'm going to respect what you have to say. This is a realization. Yes, there's dissociative identity disorder, but given that the trauma, the attachment stuff, the issue is so profound, is it unlikely that possibly, or maybe even probably, that at least one of the personalities, one of the personas might be a borderline personality disorder. And that was the borderline, one of her personas that was borderline that I had messed up with, that I had betrayed, and she's so angry about. And my screw up was that having some work, but not enough work to know that in terms of the dissociative identity disorder, that there's more to it than the integrating. So next time, got to do more work and look for, and I would actually say any other time I work with somebody where there's multiple personality dissociative identity disorder, I'm probably going to check to see if somebody in there, some persona in there was molested and maybe also has borderline issues. Okay, now this is a different situation. This is a therapist who's consulting me. So the presenting issue was that they consulted me about this client with a personality disorder, but stepping into it. And they identified that this client was borderline. Oops, I misspelled personality. Borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder. And identified personality disorder. But when she described this person, what was happening, they were describing borderline personality disorder issues. And then there's strategies to do the borderline stuff. There's Kohut's perspective, there's Kernberg's perspective, there's DBT work. It's all to do with borderlines. But as she talked to me about it, I realized that there was a misdiagnosis. There was an underdiagnosis. And I told the therapist, hey, it's worse than you think. Because not only is there's borderline issues, because remember, these are conceptual things. These are not purities of that you have borderline and you have nothing else. There's often overlap between borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, and worse yet, paranoid personality disorder. And in her particular case with this particular client who threatened to go to the BBS to file a claim against her. Actually, she didn't threaten to file a claim against her. She started therapy by telling her that her last therapist, she had filed a claim against her with the BBS. She asserted superiority, asserted dominance, did a threat, already anticipated this, and she was working this all out. So there was underdiagnosis. And because it was underdiagnosis, the therapist, was going to probably be susceptible to some real dangers. She was in significant danger in terms of this person being paranoid, more than borderline, because the borderline would feel betrayed, abandoned, or rejected, but still wants attachment and would seek forgiveness and realign, where the paranoid would always think that she as a therapist was going to get her at some point. And at some point, because paranoids will do this, do some vengeance. and feel entitled to the vengeance. More dangerous. So knowing the paranoid personality is a huge, huge issue. So now I have an African American educator, and the presenting issues career frustrations. Stepping into it, and I'm thinking, well, there's a misfit between the person's aptitude and the career. And then the strategy, the problem solving, is identifying personalities and skills and professional goals. And what do I miss? I miss racism if I'm not careful. Now, I didn't actually miss it because, I'm pretty English attuned to it, but I'm giving this as an example as a mistake that you can make. And this concept of minority stress. And minority stress is a stress that happens if you're a minority of some sort. It could be a woman in a man's world. It could be a white person or a person of color in a white dominated group, or that you are from a lower class or working class in a more professional, educated class situation. And basically there's a stress, the little stabs, the little assaults. This is not something overt and obviously tragic as a police officer kneeling on George Floyd's neck and killing him. This is the small insults and the little disrespects and the salaries increases that you're not getting, the side looks and the patronizing, condescending actions that wear you out. The diagnosis, and this one is less a mistake that I've had, but a mistake that many of my clients of color who've come to see me, when they've previously worked with other therapists, many of which were well-intended white therapists, who completely miss the racial, sexual orientation, gender identification, the class issues that creates tremendous amount of stress in their lives. I just worked with a woman right now talking about the difficulty and so forth. And right away, there's two things that came out. There's a narcissism and a racial aspect that when we discussed it became very evident that these were manifesting. So her anxiety and depression was not, frustrations were much more than, just the career situation. So the next time, what does that mean? Check. Talk to them. Those of you who think that and feel that ethnicity and race and sexual orientation, anything that might be different, is that we're all human. We're all human, but in our humanity, we have different experiences. I'm Asian American. Today, in this world right now in the United States, it's dangerous for me to be walking in the street because of the racists out there who are attacking Asian Americans. How do you think I feel when I want to take a walk just for my mental and physical health? That's a stress. If you don't have to deal with that, you don't have to deal with that. Women often deal with that when they go to a party, go to a bar, because they know they may be in danger. That's a stress as well. As a male, you may not. As a trans person, you have stress. As a gay person, you might have stress. As a person of color or a working class person or the first person from an undereducated background who gets education, these are stresses that might be highly relevant. It may not be all there is to it, but they certainly can add to it. And it's really important for you to notice and see it. So now we have another ethnic situation of a Chinese immigrant. Career frustrations again. And there are clearly language and cultural challenges for this man because he's an immigrant, came when he was a teenager. So finding resources for him seems to be the intervention for language skills and adapting cross-culturally. But you know what? Guess what also happens? He's actually was dyslexic, and not only was he dyslexic, but in many cultures and some cultures, even in some mainstream American communities and people, they don't believe in something like dyslexia. So there might be a culturally unfamiliar diagnosis, and because of that, there might be a misfit. I sometimes tease many different people of different ethnicities, situations, and so forth, that being depressed is not even a diagnosis per se, because of their life experience, their community experience, their cultural experience, their historical experience is just to suck it up and deal with it, So is this there? So you need to be tuned in because there may be diagnoses that the person doesn't see for themselves or that you may or may not see because of your cultural background or their cultural background. That's a significant mistake. So you need to look for that. So this 45-year-old machinist comes into therapy, and he says he's unfulfilled with his career and his marriage. And he says he has depression and feeling stuck. So what do? I do family of origin work with him, family and cultural